The other day in the mail, I received copies of most of the OSG Library of Napoleonic Battles series. These are Kevin Zucker's tactical level Napoleonic games covering just the whole gamut of the Napoleonic Wars. It all started with one of the games that I did another video on, which was back from the SPI era, which is Napoleon's Last Battles, which is a very simplified Napoleonic combat system that started I think Zucker first designed it in 1976, and he's obviously been designing ever since then. But the first game was with SPI. There may have been some other Zucker Napoleonic quad games from SPI in addition to Napoleon's Last Battles. I know he also did Napoleon at Bay, which was a more operational level Napoleonic system. And that itself has spawned, which I've got copies of that down here, I believe. I've got the old OSG version, kind of hard to see in that light, but it's there next to the Druid box. And then, in addition to that, he did 1809, which was another operational game. And then through OSG, and that was Victory Games there, 1809. Through OSG, he's done, in that operational level, a couple of games that I don't have, which are Habit of Victory, Napoleon at the Crossroads, and possibly Highway to the Kremlin. Maybe a different scale than the Napoleon at Bay series. But the tactical level series are all these games. I'm missing the latest iteration, or the latest title in the series. After Napoleon against Russia came Napoleon's Last Gamble, which re-implements the games that are covered in Napoleon's Last Battles. So that's Ligny, Wavre, Waterloo, and Quatre Bras. With these, and currently on the table, I've got the first battle from La Patrie en Danger, which is Brienne. Just getting started on that. As you can see, there's the Russians on the board. The French only just now starting to come onto the board. But these are quad games, most of which have fairly small maps. Some of them may have larger maps for larger areas. I know on Napoleon's Last Gamble, there's actually an expansion kit that you can buy that expands some of the maps in that series. When you're doing the whole Waterloo campaign. So I thought I'd just take a look. These are particularly chart heavy games. The original Napoleon's Last Battles was incredibly simple. It had 2 charts total for the whole game, had 6 pages of rules. These have obviously expanded in complexity quite considerably, plus they have cards now, which add some sort of chromy tactical choices and things you can make. But there's lots of charts for all these games. You've got a turned record chart for each battle. You've got your combat tables, weather chart, lost charts there, and actually those are not lost charts, but where you put eliminated units. And then there's piles of different charts here. You've got all your different army setup charts. You got casualty record tracks for each side. You get your French and your coalition casualty tracks, Rulebook, scenario rules. You've got separate rules for the cards, and in these particular tactical games, you can add the cards, add or remove the cards, depending on what you want to do. And then you have like a combat tables with notes, which is interesting. And then here's your TEC. So much more involved than what you'll see in the old SPI quad game. So I thought I would just unbox one of these. I don't know if I'll do all of them. This one's probably the hardest one to find. It's the first one in the Library of Napoleonic Battles series. And this is 4 Lost Battles. The reason I have all these, actually got them all at once, except for La Patrie en Danger, which I already had. But I managed to get a really, really good deal on the other 5 in the series. Napoleon's Last Gamble is out now, but that wasn't... the guy that I bought them from didn't have that particular title yet, so because I think it just came out in the past couple of months. So, but 4 Lost Battles is the Dresden campaign, and you've got battles that I've never even heard of, and I'm not exactly a I know most of the major battles from the Napoleonic era, but these definitely not familiar with. Grossbeeren is probably the one that I've actually heard of, but I don't know anything about. But Katzbach, Kulm, and Denowitz, no idea. So this is 1813 Dresden campaign, fighting in Germany, so I'm guessing there's a lot of fighting against the Prussians in this particular series. As for what's on the back of these, they're always nice and descriptive. Like a lot of wargame box backs, kind of it's wall of text. But, at least they have the key things, your components, scale, number of players, and so forth. So, pull this open. And these were used. This one in particular, I think, entirely punched. And the pieces, fortunately not clipped, so I can do that myself. Which I like to do. Some games you get that somebody's already clipped, and some people get over aggressive on the clipping and turn their counters into little hexagons, which I can't stand. I like to have just barely anything clipped off. That's why I use my handy deluxe counter clipper. It takes off just 2 millimeters off the corner. Makes it nice and rounded, almost like it's machined. Provides a uniform rounding. A lot of people use classic nail clippers or scissors or hobby knives or whatever, but none of those give you a precise, equally measured part taken off of each corner the way these organ laminations clippers do. These perfectly round the corner in exactly the same amount for each corner. So the counters actually look like they were, professionally, had corners professionally rounded, like they were die cut that way. So they work out really well. But these counters, if you look at them, all of the OSG counters in the series look like this. They all have this particular artwork, NATO symbols, NATO size designations, all very similar. Combat strength, movement, initiative ratings on them. And then on the back, because it's a hidden movement type of game, you'll see usually icons for a particular side on the back. So it's nice. Good consistency with the counters. No sudden change in the counters or anything midway through the publishing of the series. Thinking of something like Great Campaigns of the Civil War, where you had the older Avalon Hill games, and then when they started publishing new titles through MMP, after I think Grant Takes Command was the first of the MMP Great Campaigns titles, but even then, I think this was like 2001, but still, this is like an early MMP title where it still looks like an Avalon Hill box in terms of size. Now you can see they've moved on to the thinner MMP style boxes. But it was when they did Battle Above the Clouds that they redesigned the counters. So your counters for Battle Above the Clouds and Stonewall Jackson's Way 2 don't match what you have in everything from Grant Takes Command prior. So That's like 7 different titles that have the old Avalon Hill style counters, and then these have totally differently looking graphically designed counters. Fortunately, nothing like that for OSG. OSG stands for Operational Studies Group, by the way. I don't think I made that clear earlier. Here's the stack of cards. There'll be 2 decks in there, one for the Prussians, one for the French. Since this was a used copy, all that stuff's already used. This may be the first punched game I've ever actually done an unboxing of. Usually I do unpunched because for classic games that are out of print, you don't usually see people do unboxings of those, and for out of print games from companies that no longer exist, you'll never see. Once those counters are punched on those copies, that's one less copy in the world forever that has unpunched counters. So I like to do unboxing of classic games, just so people can see what these looked like when they were first produced. And it's sort of like recording history a little bit in a way, because we'll never see any of those particular games again. So, but in this case, I actually kind of forgot that this one was totally punched before I opened the box. So here we are. And you've got the rules here. These look a little different than the rule book that you see for the newer games in the series. This is, I think at this point, he had titled it the Library of Napoleonic Battles series, and all the rule books look the same. There's actually printed out a copy. The living rules on the Napoleon Games website, the OSG website, are in color. So this is it's the same rule book. I just printed out a copy on my laser printer, and it's in color, which is kind of nice. I like when they do that. So if you've got, usually I'll read the bound rules that come with the game, but if I'm playing with people, if I'm playing opposed at the club or whatever, I will usually print out a nice copy of the rules for my opponent to have. So that's always handy when they have the rules available for printing like that. I like that. So this is an older, obviously this was the first game in the series, so this rule book looks a little older. And it's going to be, an earlier version of the rules. So for most of these, if I go back and play the old games, I'll just end up using the newest living rules, as opposed to going back to these older rule sets. I don't know that there's huge differences between the rule set. I'm not sure what the evolution of these has been over the past 10 years or so. I don't know when this one originally came out. 2005, first edition. So these are a little over 10 years old. So the rules, I'm sure, have evolved somewhat, but maybe not hugely. One of the cool things about the OSG is they always refer to the playbook as the study folder. They use the term folder a lot, even though none of these are actually, what you would consider a typical folder, just a rules book. So these are all your different scenario rules and so forth. Historical notes, always very good. The OSG titles are always very good for historical notes. Substantial historical notes, and some cool design notes as well. Formatting for these also, despite the evolution of the series over and the slight change in the cover, the format itself for these is pretty similar in terms of layout and things like that. The newer versions of the rules remind me more like GMT rules. They literally look just like GMT rules in terms of header, font, and all that kind of stuff. But the layout is going to be very similar to even these older versions of the rules. Another interesting thing is that every OSG game that I've seen, I've looked through the boxes for all these, they all have, this actually has a getting started thing, but all of them have Q&A and or errata and or updates printed and thrown in the box, so it's kind of interesting. So it's definitely a system that's always continually evolving. Here you've got a turn record track that's not broken down by battle, so that's a variant from other games in the series, which all have, each battle has its own labeled turn record track chart. So here you've got your combat results tables, CRTs, and this is on heavy, kind of textured cardstock, similar to like something Clash of Arms would do. But you've got your, similar to other titles, your holding box, elimination box, etc. Casualty record tracks for the Coalition, again, same here as for other games in the series. You'll have specific sequence of play, also similar to other games, printed out on a sheet of paper. Victory worksheet, this is the same as used in other games. Here's the, on this one they have the this additional CRT. It's actually on multiple pages. I noticed in more recent versions they have that CRT that I was just looking at. It's actually printed as like a folder, so a little bit different there. The maps, one area where these games really do shine is on the maps. If I can unfold some of these with one hand. For this one, I believe, so these are still quads, but done on a one sheet. You could actually probably separate them unless there's campaign implications that you wouldn't want to do that. This in particular is the Grossbeeren map. Nicely colored, and this map, just looking at the artwork, is not quite as detailed as the more modern map. If you compare it to what I've got set out over here with Brienne, you can see here like the ridges and stuff. This looks a little more computer designed, I guess would be the best way to describe it. It's also darker, more of a tan brown color, as opposed to this map, which has much more yellow, a yellowish look to it. And like the ridges and stuff are a little bit more reminiscent of the old SPI map, although still a little more colorful, a different, a bigger range of colors on this map as opposed to. And indeed, we have here the force key in terms of colors, who is who, which in Napoleonic warfare you kind of want, given that, oh, it's interesting, Joe Youst did the map graphics on this. He is a Decision Games guy. They don't always do the best looking maps, I can say that. But they're usually highly functional, as are these, or these appear to be. So that's Grossbeeren. On the other side is Colm. And it looks like we go, there's map 1 to map 3 on the same sheet. It's an interesting choice. I'm not exactly sure why you'd do that, but this one has a lot more terrain, definitely. Look at the forest and rough terrain, or whatever this stuff is here, this sort of solid colored, green colored spaces. Other maps here. We have map 4. This is Denowitz. Lots of, looks like ridges on this one. But again, another quad style map. And on the other side, Katzbach. Fought near the Monkswald. whatever that is. Forest? Hills? Well, I mean, it isn't a forest, but is that the Monkswell the forest, or are they referring to some region of a country? Don't know. Don't know my geography of this sort of areas of Prussia well enough, or whatever the Palatinate or Confederation of the Rhine or wherever it is this is being fought. I have no idea. It looks like there were some counters that were unpunched with this. And I know OSG is good about keeping, looks like at least one counter sheet was fully punched. OSG is actually good about being able to order components of their games online on their website. So they might even have some counters left from, maybe not from this one, but I know they do. They at least have boxes and things that you can order from all the other games in the series. This may be the one that they're sold out of. But it looks like there's a lot of coalition forces still unpunched here. These are the Russians. So interesting. So I guess I do have some punching yet to do. But there is a look at 4 Lost Battles. I will pack this one up, and maybe we'll take a look at some of the other ones too.